Today we review a book written to men by a man for men. Wow, it's a wonderful book titled The Maze of Masculinity, written by Stephen Kigwa, who has joined us today. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, what prompted you to write in this book, The Maze of Masculinity?
Well, that's a very important question. First of all, this book is not just for men, actually. It's also for women. It's for women to know about men from a man's perspective, because most of the things that women think that they know about men have been taught them by their fellow women who unfortunately have lost the men in their lives. It's a book about men that women should also read to understand what goes on in the world of men. And also, if you are a single mother and you are raising boys, this is also a great book to read. So what prompted me was, for the last couple of years in this country, we have had a spirited campaign for the empowerment of the girl child. And I think we have achieved some substantial results. But if you look keenly into the society with an objective eye, you will notice that there is actually a conspicuous neglect of the boy child. My concern has been that we will empower our women. Yes, they will be doing fine, they will have good positions, whether in politics, in corporate. But now they will be faced with a blunt knife of the disempowered males who will be the robbers and the rapists. So that's what prompted me to write a book for the boy child. Because if you want to have a healthy society, you need, in fact, if you want to have a safe society, you really need to have men who have values and virtues. And that's why I wrote this book, to try and challenge men to take up their leadership role in raising boys and setting up a society that is safe for women. Yes.
Well, I was reading this book at the dedication. You've dedicated this book to your dad. It seems that this book is so connected to your life. Tell us about Stephen Kigwa in connection to this book.
Well, I think greatly the person I am today has been because of what my dad did in my life. My dad taught me a lot, not so much by what he taught me, say, in terms of teaching me theoretically or in a class or in a session, but by observing his life, looking at the way he lived his life, the way he related with his wife, who is my mother, the way he raised us up, the way his dedication to the ministry, his dedication to family, his dedication to the society and all that. That really taught me a lot. So it's actually a tribute to him, but I also dedicated it also to my son, because if you really want to know whether you are a father, you just need to look at the kind of sons that you will raise. That is actually what qualifies you to say that you're a father. Yes.
Now, when you read this book, it starts by, bringing up the social change that has occurred in our society right now. Tell us more about that.
I can tell you actually have read that book, Days. If you look at the olden times, we had actually specific roles that were played by men and specific roles that were played by women. The society has changed. It's no longer like that. For example, women were known to be the ones to go do the cooking, the washing, and taking care of the children and all that. And sadly to say, also provide sexual pleasure for men. And now men were known to be depending on the cultural background, whether it's taking care of cattle or plowing and all that. But now the society has changed like that. I actually opened up my book by giving a scenario of a young boy who went to seek some advice from his grandfather. And he went to his grandfather, and the grandfather was looking at this boy and saying, "Son, you are of age now. You need to become a real man." And the boy was like, "Grandpa, what do you mean I need to become a real man?" And he said, "You need to settle and have a family. A man becomes a real man when you actually settle and have a woman, take care of her, provide clothing and shelter and all that. And then you set up a family." And the boy was challenged, and he said to himself, "I'm going to look for someone to settle with." So he went out there looking for a girl. And before they could settle, in terms of having a ceremony, wedding ceremony, so that they could settle in marriage, the lady was asking this young man, "What do you really want to do with me?" And the boy was saying, "I will take care of you, I will provide for you, I will do all those things for you." And the girl was like, "Excuse me, I have all that. I live in my own house, I drive my own car, and I do all these things." And the boy now didn't know what to say. But the woman was insisting that I need a real man. I need a real man. And he was confused because he thought a real man would be, providing food, shelter, clothing, and all that. And Anyway, finally they settled. They had some trouble in their marriage, and the guy went back to the grandfather to seek for advice. And he told the grandfather, "Grandfather, my wife won't listen to me." And then the grandfather said, "You've got to be a man. Show her that you are a man." And the young man was, "How?" He said, "Put your foot on the ground." And then the man said, "But the floor of this ground you're telling me to put my foot firmly on is her floor." Yeah, so you see, the society has changed. We used to have men who actually were the breadwinner. They were men were the ones that were earning money, taking care of the family in terms of providing. But it's no longer the same. Today we have women who are earning more than men. So it has changed a lot. We used to have specific salons or barbershops for men and women. We used to have specific clothing for men and for women. Today we talk of unisex, clothes. We talk of unisex salon. Things have changed. There's all that now.
A question is raised in your book.
Yes.
Where are the fathers when all this is happening to their sons?
Yes, actually the big challenge and the big question that I have posed is, where are the fathers? I have been graced by God to go around the world, and especially in our country, from one place to the other, because my job revolves around so much talking to people, whether they are in corporates, parents, and schools and all that. And what I've observed a trend. Anytime I go for parents' meeting to speak to parents in schools, I see more of mothers than fathers. And specifically, I see more of single mothers in those schools more than any other time in the history of this country. And that question came, where are the fathers then? In fact, every time I go for these meetings and I see fathers, I really have to applaud them and tell them, this is good. At least we have some few fathers who are still concerned. Let me tell you, I'm not saying that women do not play any role when it comes to the development of the boy child. A mother is so critical and so important, but it takes another man to make a man out of a boy. A man can never be raised up by a woman. A man needs another man to affirm his manhood. And that's why I'm asking, where are the fathers? Because you see now boys being raised by their mothers. They go for shopping with their mothers. Even their mannerisms now are feminine. Why? Because they do not have role modeling of men who are godly, with values, who can show them the way, who can mentor them, and bring the king in the boy. Let me tell you this. Psychiatrists have proved that the relationship between a boy and a mother when he is young, below the ages of 5, determines how that boy will be able to relate with people in the society. Men are not relational beings. Women are. And men learn relationship skills from women. So the way a boy relates with his mother when he is young determines how he will relate with other people. So it is critical. But there is a place that mama cannot take the boy. The boy goes through 4 stages. There is the stage of what I call blessed ignorance, where the boy doesn't care whether he's a boy or a man, or a girl. He doesn't, he's just there, blessed ignorance. Then from there, at the ages of between 3 and 4.5 years, you will see the boy now realizing he's a man. He doesn't even want to take orders from men. We call it disconnection stage. The boy tries to disconnect and he's looking for something he can emulate, a manly figure. Then from that, he goes into another stage whereby it's now the teenage. I call it the heart stage, where they are looking for something to identify themselves. It could be anything, a way of life, a way of philosophy of thought, some clothing, some label. He's trying to associate himself with what's happening in the world and all that. Before then, he finally gets into young adulthood. So all that, the mother also plays a big role. And we become men because of the nurturing from our mothers. That's true. But there is only so much that a mother can do that now requires the father to take on. In fact, if you look at the Bible challenges us that fathers are the ones to train a child. It's not mother. And to train means it's not telling them this is the way. No, it's walking in the way and telling them whatever you see me do, do it. That's what training is all about.
Now, one of the quotes that I read from this book is, "It may still be a man's world, but certainly it is not a boy's world." And Stephen, you say that it is hard to be a man.
It is difficult to be a man. And women don't even know that. If you look at the way things are done in the world today, even a simple thing as the way even supermarkets are arranged today, they are not arranged or designed for men. They are designed for women. That's why I say it is no longer a boy's world. There was this saying that it is a man's world.
They even sang about it.
Yes, there was even a song, I think, in the 70s about that. It's no longer that way. Things have changed. Today, 20 years ago, it was something so huge to see a woman driving. I mean, people would stop and say, wow, a lady driving. Today, when I look around when I am driving, I actually see more women driving than men. So you see, things have changed.
They have totally changed.
And also now, because of the fact that we have had so much in terms of disintegration of social values and all that, societal values, family, institution has been attacked so much. So because of that lack of role modeling, so boys don't have role models they can emulate. They don't have such. So because of that, they try to look for role modeling from anybody, anywhere, whether it's music stars or film stars or anything, whether they are, all manner of things. So, and they get lost along the way. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And when I read this book, the next chapter talks about the maze of masculinity, how to navigate through to be a man from the point one is a boy to the point they are a man. It is a maze. How to navigate through? Tell us more about that.
It's actually a maze because one of the choice that a man has to make when he's a boy is not to be a woman. That is a conscious choice that a man has to make when he is growing up. And it is so difficult if a boy does not have a father. Because, like I said, there's so much of what a woman can do, but there is a level where a woman will never be able to take the man. That's why I said a man needs another man to affirm his manhood. Let me tell you, a good well done from a father means more to a boy than 20 kisses from mama. So it is a maze from the time the boy is born to the time he tries to associate with his peers and all that, try to find his place in the society, in that context, as a boy, to the time he grows up into young adulthood. He goes to the world of dating, to the world of, business or career or whatever. It's a maze. And every stage has its own challenges. Unfortunately, in this generation, what I have seen, and one of the key things that really has gripped my heart is to see young people getting lost. Not so much because we don't have people who can offer them help, but because they are not willing even to take the help. And I realized when I've been going around with my seminars and workshops, I discovered it is hard to even help people. Helping people is hard work. You can never help someone until the point where they realize they need help. So the maze is all about, it's about the challenges someone has to go through. It's about settling in life. It's about getting to know who you are, asking the 5 critical questions that every man and every woman for that matter has to ask themselves and answer sincerely to be able to live a life that is meaningful and which is contributing to society. It's all about answering, navigating those questions. And they are the question of who am I? Where did I come from? What am I doing? Why was I born? And where am I going? Those are the 5 critical questions that you have to answer as you go and as you walk through the maze of masculinity.
But nobody is asking the questions, because in your book you say there are silent screams, like the silence is screaming, it's so noisy.
You ask yourself, Daisy, how come that today you see young, educated boys getting into funny things, getting into drugs, getting into radical extremism groups and all that? Why? That tells you there is they are crying out for something, but nobody is hearing their scream. We are so busy doing many other things that we can't even hear. Today, parents are so much focused into investing for their children as opposed to investing in their children. We want to give our children what we never got from our parents, but we are not thinking that we also need to give them what we got from our parents. That's a big challenge.
Well, there is a topic you covered, and I believe that as we review this book, yes, I would like to hear more. The issue of homosexuality. One time I was listening to one of those people talk, and I felt like I can crash, because he was trying to justify a point I couldn't understand. Tell us more about it.
I've really tackled that topic quite candidly in my book. And just to highlight a few things that I have talked about, one is what came to my mind was one day I received a call from a guy, and he was a distressed caller. He said to me, Stephen, do you have a minute? And I could tell he was speaking in low tones, and I said, yes, I have a minute. He said, my name is so-and-so. I would like some help. I am gay, and I have been struggling with this. How can you help me? I want to stop. Well, I couldn't offer him any help on phone. I just referred him to some few organizations that I knew were dealing with that. But that triggered something in me, and I said, oh, really, there is a need out there. There are people really who got introduced into funny ideologies and all that. They got hooked up into them, but now they don't know how to get out of it. And I started doing my research and all that. And of course, there is so much that has been said, which is not even true, where these activists talk about that some people were born gays. There is nothing like that. There is not even anywhere in the world, there is no geneticist today who is alive who has conclusively been able to say, I have identified the so-called the gay gene. There is nothing like that. Even if there was a gay gene, for example, so to speak, that it is transmitted from one person to the other or from one generation to the other, it would then mean that we wouldn't even be having homosexuals alive today, because homosexuals cannot sire. That means those genes would have just gone off. They would have become extinct. But there is a big and a serious threat to the society today because of these Western ideologies and all that. And I applaud the efforts by some of the people in authority here and also in the East African region. I applaud, actually, in my book, I applaud the Ugandan president for studying and saying no to those kind of ideologies in his country. And I think we need to get there. It's homosexual, number one, from a biblical perspective, it is condemned. It's condemned. Secondly, from our custom and tradition, it is even unheard of. It is something that you don't even want to talk about. But we cannot hide ourselves from it. We need to address it because it is real. We have had cases even reported on the mainstream media of boys in schools who have been molested by other boys and all that. So we can't say it's a big threat.
This book takes you way back, and it may answer some of the questions that you have as a parent or as a father or even as a son because of your sibling or your children to be. Mr. Stephen, you try to answer some of the questions and some of the screams that our young men are having. Tell us more about that.
Specifically, I was particularly perturbed, and I think I will say this without any fear of intimidation from any quarters. There has been a trend in the society and in the mainstream media, especially on the boy child from the Central Province, formerly Central Province. And I've been asking myself, why is it when a boy is born, the reason why women celebrate or were celebrating those days was because they identified a member of the body that they used as the measuring yard to determine or to say, this is a boy. And there has been a lot of episodes on the television media and all that, especially precisely from Central Province, whereby women have been, brought in the limelight, having dismembered, the same member that identified the boy as a male. And it is more than just that. It's more than just that, because whatever happens in the seen world has its origin in the unseen world. In fact, the unseen world is more real than the seen world. Whatever you see happening in society is a reflection of what is happening behind the scenes. And let me tell you why there has been a silent scream, and also why it's difficult and hard to be a man. If you look keenly from the Bible, even from the times of Moses, there was a decree by the king to kill all male children that were born. Why? Because the enemy knows the moment I kill the male, the moment I kill the leadership, even in war, when armies are fighting, they are looking for the head of the troop, the captain. That's what they are interested with that. Once they capture the head, they know they will be able to disorganize or destabilize their group. So even in the society today, the enemy has been fighting the male because the male was given the leadership role by the Creator himself. If you look at the times during the times of Jesus, Herod had issued a decree that all boys should be killed. So there has been a fight from the spiritual realm to fight boys, to fight men, because when men are not taking their leadership role seriously and in line with what God ordained them to do, there will be a big problem. A man needs to submit to an authority before he can be an authority. And the supreme and sovereign authority is God's authority. And that's why you can never be powerful in leadership as a man if you are not submitted to the one who gave you that mantle to act on his behalf. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Why should one get this book, and where can they get this book?
Number one, every man that aspires to lead a godly lifestyle must get this book as a man. Two, if you're a woman and you're raising a boy, or you have a man in your life, you need to read this book because you need to understand the world of men from a man's perspective. If you're a boy growing up, you need to understand exactly the challenges that you're likely to be faced with in life and how to navigate them, and to get candid help and solutions to some of the questions that someone may be having. So I would actually encourage every person, every boy. I wish every boy in this country, in every school, would have this book, but I think it could really have a big impact in their lives. Actually, I recently appointed myself as the Goodwill Ambassador for the Boy Child Empowerment, because I really have been feeling I need to do this. I was not doing this book, by the way, to make any money at all. No, I was doing it because I identify a need in the society. And I thought, instead of talking about it, why don't I do something? And I would actually encourage other people who have got the same kind of mindset to also come up together and do, in their own little way, to do whatever it is they can do to try and salvage our society. Now, this book is available actually on Amazon.com. Those people who are buying from the hard copy, they just call us directly. We deliver within Kenya. We deliver anywhere.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It has been a pleasure.